I call this meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. We will now move into Section 2, swearing in. There is none. We'll now move to Section 3, opening roll call.
Attendance is now open. I have 26 senators present tonight.
Thank you. We'll now move into Section 4, messages from the Student Body President.
Upon recommendation by the Senate and by my authority, the following have been signed and filed as law. AR-68-015, an act to prioritize the coordination of WSU and USD 259's inclement winter weather policies. SB-68-154, an act to amend the Student Bill of Rights. SB-68-164, an act to establish a framework for recording and reporting unfinished legislative initiatives of the Student Senate. SB-68-169, an act to add senator floor speeches to the bylaws. That is the end of the messages.
Thank you. We'll now move into Section 5, messages from the Finance Commission. There are none. We'll now move to Section 6, 3-minute floor speeches. In lieu of senators using public forum as a mechanism to address the Senate, a senator may seek recognition to give a speech on a subject of their choice, not exceeding 3 minutes in duration. 3-minute speeches are focused on specific topics. Senators may only hold the floor once during this period. Are there any senators that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move to Section 7, Public Forum. Public forum provides a chance for individuals to have the privilege of speaking before the Senate, limited to 3 minutes only. This is the time for the Senate to listen to what the community has to say, and to that, we offer our undivided respect and attention. I would like to remind everyone that, although we allow the speakers the privilege to use this platform, the opinions of the speakers do not reflect the opinions of the association. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into Section 8, introductions to reports. So we'll go to 8.1, report from the executive branch.
Good evening, everyone. Vice President Nguyen is out sick, so I will be giving the executive branch report tonight. A majority of the cabinet has wrapped up their responsibilities and are working on transition guides to transition the next leadership in their roles. They have all moved out of the office today. I will share some of the specifics of cabinet members as they finish out this session. So I have been meeting with the university administration to also wrap up the session. Going forward, a majority of these meetings will be transitioning the president-elect and the vice president-elect. I have also certified the elections result and will be putting forward 2 associate justice nominees. Additionally, we had our last agency board of directors meeting. Right now, I'm mostly working on any last outreach programming efforts, the SGA banquet, and transitioning the next administration. Vice President Nguyen has also been attending meetings with university administration with me. She is preparing for FLC's last event next week on Tuesday, April 21st, 11 to 1 p.m. Please come out if you are available. Treasurer Bum did not have Finance Commission last week, so there is no report from the Finance Commission. In this upcoming week, Finance Commission will be seeing the last few applications from individual or organizational funding. Both applications are now closed for the session. Treasurer Bum will also be conducting appropriations briefings from April 23rd to May 1st. More information can be found on SGA's Instagram at Wichita State SGA. Director Raju is finalizing the second date of the Vision Care pop-up and will be presenting on the statistics of the menstrual products initiative after I'm done with the entire report. Director Safdar hosted a very successful Kansas Leadership Center event. Typically, KLC charges $200 a student. We had 25 students come and learn about the leadership, which would have been quoted at $5,000. Due to Director Safdar's leadership, though, KLC agreed to only charge $1,500. He is currently waiting on some survey results. The advocates are finishing up their cases for the session, and I will have Anushka come up and present.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to share a little bit about the utilization of the Menstrual Product Initiative over this past year. Just a little bit of background, the Menstrual Product Initiative, for those who may not know, was established in 2022 by the 65th Sessions Executive Cabinet. There are 20 dispensers across campus buildings. All the locations are there for you to see. And then I have been refilling them on a bi-weekly basis about twice per month. So for the report itself, the reporting period is from August 2025 to April 2026. For the data collection itself, so there is a form that students can fill out when the menstrual products are empty or need refilling. It will send me an email of the location and then the products that need to be refilled. So for this past reporting period, there were a total of 405 requests. Some of the metrics that I was able to evaluate based on the data was utilization by location, month, and then the product utilization as well. So in terms of location, there was quite a variety between the different buildings on campus that have dispensers, with the highest one being Abla Library, followed by Shocker Success Center, which has a total of 4 dispensers across all floors. Those were the main 2. The others are there as follows. Some potential contributing factors that I noted might have been foot traffic by students, accessibility, and then student needs in those different buildings as well. As for monthly utilization, we kind of saw a peak in the October and November time frame, with a total of 71 requests in October and 78 in November. It's kind of been stable throughout this past semester. With product distribution, it was seen that there was a heavy preference for pads over tampons, with a 75 requests for pads in comparison to 52 for tampons. Typically, when I refilled, I would refill quite a few more pads than tampons. So just some key findings to sum up the data from the report. So a majority of the product usage was based on location, so libraries and central study spaces showed the highest demand, along with the academic buildings, which were pretty consistently utilized. That goes along with the centralized locations, which would maximize support. So large shared spaces kind of had the most usage. So going forward, potentially having fewer strategic locations that can serve more students. There was an uneven utilization for the low use locations, so that might be due to limited awareness of those areas, lower foot traffic, or just inconvenient placement. And then product preference, as I mentioned earlier, pads were preferred overall. Going forward, I have a couple of recommendations for this initiative. So I would like to see an increase in stocking frequency, especially for the high utilization areas, so the library and Shocker Success Center, just so that those are refilled more frequently, so that they're able to be utilized by students, and then expanding access to a couple more areas. I think it would be nice to see one more dispenser in the Abla Library to help support the heavy utilization, especially in that building. One in Wallace Hall. It's also an academic building that a lot of students have classes in. That's one of the main ones that doesn't have a dispenser yet, so adding one there. There is one in the engineering building, but I find that the bathrooms in Wallace Hall are a lot easier and more accessible to students for them to find. And then also working with the gender neutral bathroom initiative to make sure that menstrual products are available to anyone who might need them. That's all I have for the report. I'll now stand for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for President Wong or Director Raju for her report? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, what floor is the Abla Library one on?
It's on the first floor.
Are there any additional questions for President Wong or Director Raju? Seeing no more questions, thank you. After the meeting, this PowerPoint will be uploaded into the Teams for your review later on as well. With that, we'll now move into 8.2, report from the Speaker of the Senate. So good evening, everyone. I hope your week is going well. This is the second to last meeting of the 68th session, so I have a couple updates for you all today. Our Senate leadership team is finishing up our transition guides in addition to wrapping up and cleaning up our emails. So we're finishing up our remaining meetings for this session. As I mentioned during Committee of the Whole, for our SJ office, this is our last day that our SJ leadership will physically be in the office, but if at any point you have any questions, concerns, or wish to reach out to us, you are more than welcome to email us, and we can set a meeting either in the SJ conference room or over Teams. Additionally, as I mentioned in a couple of the Senate committee meetings today, for emeritus legislation, the deadline to turn in emeritus legislation is 5 p.m. on Friday. So if you're writing emeritus legislation, I ask that you reach out to me to let me know. That way I can make sure that we don't have any senators working on duplicate bills, but also that everything's going good for that. For emeritus bills, one thing that I would caution senators as we're writing emeritus bills is that the emeritus status should not be taken lightly. So senators should not, I would highly encourage senators not to write it just because someone's graduating or just because they were here for a long time, but because they went above and beyond their responsibilities that they serve here for the association as a senator. So if there's a senator that's really, really sticking out to you that's outgoing or graduating, I would, of course, encourage you to write that legislation, but keep that in mind that we're not writing legislation just to give out emeritus status. It is a big honor that stays until forever, pretty much, unless it's revoked. So please keep that in mind as well. Additionally, as a reminder, don't forget that the SJ banquet is coming up soon. So I misspoke at the last meeting. So it is not on the 18th. It is on the 25th. So please prepare for the banquet as well. I also sent out a memo for unfinished legislation. Earlier today, I realized I didn't send out the memo to all the senators. So after today's meeting, I'll be sending out another email for the senators that didn't receive the unfinished business memo. But for unfinished business with Senator Otto's legislation being passed, the central office and I are now required to collect reports for unfinished business. So you have legislation that you want to pass on to the next session or legislation that you didn't finish, I ask that you, one, read the memo if once you receive it or if you already got it, but two, put it in a Word document like what is required, and then I can compile it to present to the next Senate at their first meeting as well. So please keep that in mind. The deadline to turn in unfinished business documents is, I believe, Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So that gives me a little bit of time to adjust as well. For next week's Senate meeting, that is our last Senate meeting of the session. So our Senate meeting will begin at 5:30, and we will have no committee of the whole and no Senate committees. Additionally, if there's any need to dress up, next meeting is going to be dressed up, as we will try to take a big group photo after the Senate meeting as well. Additionally, we will also be presenting our last Senator of the Month award as well. Additionally, for today's agenda, it is all the remaining second reads from our committees last week. So everything that we don't pass tonight will either be tabled indefinitely or, at the very worst, be on next week's meeting. I would prefer not to push any legislation to next week's meeting, as that is our concluding remarks, our emeritus status legislation. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we pass or fail or table indefinitely all the legislation that we have on the floor tonight. In addition, for next week, any unapproved meeting minutes for Senate committees or Senate or legislative affairs that we don't approve will be on the agenda for next week's meeting. So for all of those that are helping out with records, it has to be turned into me this Friday at 5 p.m. And for today's consent agenda, I will be pulling all the minutes that are on the agenda for consideration. So we will finish them by next week's meeting. Additionally, a memo was sent out a little bit ago requiring mandated event attendance for the SJ send-off celebration. That is a required event. So if you know you can't make it to the send-off celebration on April 20th, I ask that you fill out a shocker sync form, and several senators are very close for the absences totals. So please, please, please fill out a form. If you can't make it, I would hate for you to be removed due to 3 unexcused absences because you forgot to fill out an excuse form. So please ensure that if you can't make it, you fill out the form as well. Additionally, within this week's email sent notification, I put several of the remaining events that we have for SJ, including FLC's event, in addition to a partnership event between SAC and SGA, so that will also be next week. Additionally, if you have any remaining items or meetings that you would like to schedule, please do that as soon as possible. That way, Senate leadership can adjust with that with all the transitions processes happening as well. Finally, on Monday, I accepted Chairperson Kasir Safar's resignation for LES Senator seat. So Senator Andrew Beam will serve as the interim Academic Affairs Chairperson for the next week. With that, that concludes my Senate report. Are there any questions for me? Okay, seeing no questions, we'll move into report from the Senate chairpersons, and we'll go to Interim Academic Affairs Chairperson Beam.
Good evening. During the last academic affairs meeting of the session, we focused on reflecting back on this session. I asked my fellow committee members to provide some feedback about what we did well this session and what we could do better next session as a committee. This feedback will be shared with the next academic affairs chairperson and the next speaker of the Senate so we can improve as a Senate next session. I'd also like to again thank everyone in the academic affairs committee for all their hard work.
We will now move into questions. Are there any questions for Chairperson Beam? Seeing no questions, thank you. We will now go to the report from Diversity, Empowerment, and Inclusion, Chairperson Ping.
Hi everyone, it's the second to last meeting. Wow, time flies. Not much to report from me. Today in committee we had our closing session where I thanked each of my senators for everything they've done this session, whether they came at the beginning or in the middle of it. I'm not going to get too emotional about it. I'll save that for next week when we have our closing Senate meeting where I will definitely cry. But that is all from me.
We'll go to questions. Are there any questions for Chairperson Ping? Seeing none, thank you. We will now go to the report from Government Oversight Chairperson Tawana.
Good evening, everyone. Today was our last Government Oversight Committee meeting, and before going into our reflection, we discussed the two bills which we have up for second read, the SOC Bill 1 and Senator Phillips' Scholarship Bill. Other than that, I think we had a good reflection session, which I can't speak much on here on the record. So yeah, that's pretty much all from me.
We'll move into questions. Are there any questions for Chairperson Tawana? Seeing none, thank you. We will now go to the report from Student Services Chairperson Hansen.
Hi everyone, I hope everyone's having a good evening. We had our last Student Services Committee earlier this evening, and we spent the time reflecting on the session and eating good food with minimal tears. Senator Winslow's An Act to Create a University Police Advisory Board is on the floor for its second read, alongside Senator Miller's An Act to Address Barriers in Undergraduate Research. Other than that, I've just been preparing for the end of the session and readying to help the new chairpersons transition when the time comes. Thank you.
We'll now go into questions. Are there any questions for Chairperson Hansen? Seeing none, thank you. And we'll now move into 8.4, report from the central office.
Hello, everyone. Good. I'm kidding, I don't have a long report. Just a couple things. The scholarships for next year for student government, including our summer ones, are still open until May 1st. That information is on the SJ website under the funding page, but also on social media, so please make sure you share that out with folks. All of our funding processes for this year, including the hardship fund, is now closed for the year, and that gets us in line to closing SJ's fiscal year, which is May 4th. As mentioned earlier, the dates for appropriation briefings have been launched for next year. Those are literally all over the place in social media, email, Shocker Blast, GroupMe, the TVs on campus, everywhere. So if you are connected to a student group or have friends or folks who are, please make sure that you share that information with them. This year we're doing appropriations with it, but also kind of transition planning. One of the things that we learned a lot about some of our student groups last year who went through appropriations was that they didn't prepare the next people for this process. So Luke and Caitlin are going to work through that with our student groups to make sure that they're better prepared for this upcoming year. Remember, they have to attend at least one of those, and I think there's 6. Yep, there are 6 different dates. They have to attend at least one in order to satisfy attending the briefing, and 2 officers from each group must be there. As also mentioned, today is the last day that the leadership will be in the student government office. It will close today and reopen when the new leadership is sworn in. They will have access to their email, so if you need anything, please send them an email. But they'll also either be in the 216 office. More than likely, they'll be in my office for whatever reason. If you need them, please stop by to chat with them too. Student government policies require that we notify the Senate of when a new student organization is approved. We have recently approved the Shocker Dev Collective, which is to create an accessible club for students of all knowledge levels to practice all aspects of computer science skills set in preparation for future career in computer science. The group will use group projects, mentoring, and events to facilitate learning and networking for students interested in computing. And that is all that I have, unless there are any questions.
Are there any questions for Advisor Fonseca? Senator Mallard?
Yeah, so I was asked by a student that they they were told that SAC, CSB, and the Student Belonging Coalition are merging. Do you have any information on that?
Great question, Senator Mallard. What a moment. So full transparency, we have had some conversations about the purposes of all three of those organizations or programming boards. Each of them all have a different purpose and identity of how they exist. A part of our conversations we've been having in student engagement and belonging is how do we better support those organizations, but also kind of help those organizations evolve and expand. We have just decided that we're not going to do it this upcoming year, but we're still going to have conversations. Mainly, we're not doing it mainly also because we have already launched the applications for the new leadership, and 2 of those groups have already prepared to select leaders. But we still will be having some conversations about kind of how to best structure those organizations. Our office is getting ready to launch a strategic planning process to develop. Hopefully we're done with merging offices is my hope in this process. But we just put out a survey that about 2 weeks ago that kind of asked students about some feedback about general experiences and whatnot. So I'm not saying that it won't happen in the future, but in this upcoming academic year, we won't be doing that at this time. But great question. Other questions?
Are there any other questions?
Wonderful.
All right, thank you. We'll now move into section 9 of the consent agenda. I am pulling all those minutes for consideration, and they will be on the agenda for next week. So I'm sure Clerk Thompson will enjoy finishing all the remaining minutes up as well. We'll now move into section 10, pending business, and we'll move to 10.1. The clerk may read.
Akron requests to approve SP-68-165, an act to create a University Police Department Advisory Board.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say I'm very excited for this to be the second read of my bill, and I hope that you all pass it tonight. You'll be very disappointed if you don't. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just going to go over a few quick things that we amended in committee. They're more or less just like little tiny things that we had to do. The first thing was lines 10 through 12 was changed. The reasoning behind that was because after talks with Chief Schroeder, he was kind of iffy on the language of that whereas section. So we did change it to kind of more emphasize that it is a more positive thing rather than perceived as a negative thing. So it just kind of rewords that section. I don't see needing to change again. I did get some feedback on it from fellow senators. about possibly changing it more. I don't think it needs to be changed more at this time. And then I just added Eric Poe, the WSU Tech head of security on there, because they are one of the seats in this bill, so I felt it pertinent to include them in the sent to section. As for further amendments that I will make tonight, line 54, I was told the 3 residence assistants needs to be changed to residence assistants. That was brought to me by Speaker Fawn, so I will make that amendment during the debate period tonight. And then also line 61, I will be changing that from 2 to 3 WSU students majoring in political science or criminal justice. That suggestion was brought by Senator Timms. I think that it's very pertinent to do that after being brought up, just because of the slim majority that students do have on the board. I think that increasing that majority just slightly would help, especially if we were to add another member of a non-student relation, per se, to the board, as brought up by Senator Hatch during the first read about the medical campus, possible a position coming from there once that is completed. So those are the reasons behind that and those amendments that I will make tonight. I am going to reiterate something, if you were not here last week, from my Senate floor speech. I do not want to hear repeat questions during the question period today. Just anything like that. I don't want to have questions that are in relation to the first read's questions. Just trying to get that out of the way now so we do not have to do that. And as of now, I think that's pretty much it. I'll stand for any questions that you guys have.
Okay, we'll move into the question period. I'll go to Senator Mallory.
This is for Speaker Fawn. If I'm not mistaken, if it's just like a typo, are we able to just fix that and we don't have to make a motion? Because we've done that in the past, or is this just so much of a or like a mistake that we do have to fix that?
I think my advice is just to make an amendment in the debate period and change it, since the meanings of residence and resident can be interpreted a little bit differently. But I think a lot of us know the meaning behind it, but I would like a formal vote for that. Are there any other questions? I'll go to Senator Boyd.
So last week we talked about the majors, and I did more research about it for certain like criminal justice majors. A lot of the homeland security like classes are cross-listed as criminal justice classes, so therefore it wouldn't be more homeland security based. It'll
Senator
be more,
Boyd, do you have a question?
yeah, I was like,
Get to the question.
so I'm saying that like, when you said that homeland security is more of a specific degree, it's really not, and it's cross-listed as a criminal justice major. So would you be more open to changing?
That question was already asked last week. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing no more questions, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period for this item for its second and final read. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Senator Winslow.
Sorry, I had to pull it up real quick. I motion to amend line 54 to read resident assistance rather than residence assistance.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Parker, we'll now move into the debate period on this item. I move to approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none is adopted as such. We'll now go back into the debate period on this legislation as a whole. I'll go to Senator Winslow.
I motion to amend line 61 to read 3 rather than 2.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Hatch, we'll now move to the debate period on this item. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Yeah, I'm just going to reiterate the point again. Just increasing the majority for students because it was a slim margin. I believe 1 was the margin of majority there. So just increasing it would give students more of a voice. This is what they're supposed to have on this board.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak on this motion at this time? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period for this item.
Before we get into voting, we have 26 senators tonight, which means we have 17 for 2/3 and 14 for simple majority. this motion needs a simple majority to pass. Now open. With 25 yeses, 1 no, 0 abstains, this motion passes.
We'll now move back into the debate period for this legislation as a whole. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Chairperson Hansen.
Hello, everyone. I will be speaking in affirmation for this bill. I've had the pleasure of witnessing the work and dedication Senator Winslow has put into this legislation. He has worked alongside UPD Chief Guy Schroeder, who is in full support of this bill and the legislation as it stands, and has met with both Speaker Fawn and I several times throughout the process of making this legislation. Additionally, this legislation has been in works since the end of January, early February, and Senator Winslow has offered several opportunities for fellow senators to give feedback and collaborate on this legislation. This bill is genuinely attempting to improve the student experience, and so I implore all of you to reflect on your vote before voting. Thank you.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallory.
Yeah, I'll be speaking in affirmation as well. I want to reiterate the point that this has been worked on for a while, and we have the chief of police who came and spoke to us talking about how he's in approval of this and that this is something that they've been wanting for a very long time, and we should not drag this on and complaining about a few really small things. And I also think that having the majors as they are is productive towards what we are trying to get, as it allows those groups to enhance their information and knowledge in those fields.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate on this legislation as a whole? I'll go to Senator Austin.
I'm also going to be speaking in affirmation. Yes, it has a lot of work behind it, but we also see a lot of student issues based around parking and our police service. And so that would allow these issues to actually be brought to somebody to do something about. So thank you.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Winslow.
Yeah, I just wanted to, obviously speaking in affirmation of this bill, just gonna give some insight onto the amount of effort that was put behind this. Multiple emails, meetings with the police department, with their command staff, reaching out to other universities. The amount of time and effort that has been put into this, no detail was overlooked within this legislation besides a little typo. But the point is that everything in this legislation, there's a reason it's there. There's a reason everything is written the way it is. And so I stand fully behind the entirety of this bill and every single piece of language that is in there.
Are there any individuals that wish to speak in negation or wish to make amendments? Senator Miller.
I am going to make a motion to table this indefinitely.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Boyd, we will now move into the debate period. Would you like to speak on your motion?
I would like to speak on this motion. I'm getting the sense that this motion might be fairly unpopular, but that's okay because I think there's something that needs to be said further about this. There's been a lot of conversation about people reaching out over this piece of legislation, but I don't feel as though the author of this legislation has given it the room to be amended. If I can explain further, during its first committee reading, there were multiple questions asked about making certain amendments to the bill, and it was repeatedly stated by the author that they were unbudging on making those amendments, that they stood by them. I will also say that I personally felt, as it came to committee, that a lot of suggestions were made towards this piece of legislation, and that only a few of them were implemented, and oftentimes when they were implemented, they did not focus on the types of changes that we would like to have been seen. I do understand a lot of the grievances that have been brought up with people not reaching out directly to the author, but I don't feel as though the space has been made for people to feel that it would be productive to bring up their motions. So that's my piece. I feel that if we table this indefinitely, then maybe during the first couple Senate sessions, we can hammer out some of those changes that people might be thinking about. And we might be able to discuss those changes a bit further when we feel that there's more space to make those changes together. That's my piece on it. This is not an attack on the legislation or on the author of this legislation, but I do take issue with the message that has been brought up over and over again about this piece of legislation, that just because a lot of work and effort has been put into it, that it is suddenly inherently deserving of being passed. And I also feel as though some of the conversation that happened during last Senate meeting was, quite frankly, somewhat hostile. I don't think that that is an energy that we should be bringing to Senate. And so that is my piece. That is why I am motioning to table indefinitely. You can agree or disagree, but I just thought it was really important that we have those conversations today.
Yeah, so I'll be speaking in negation of this motion. I'm speaking in negation with some of the points that were brought up, as I don't believe that we should table this legislation indefinitely due to some of the reasons that were brought up as well. I believe the legislation stands on its own regardless of some of the feedback that we discuss, and my argument is that if the committee feels like, or senators feel like changes should be made, they should make the amendments if they believe changes should be made. I don't believe that tabling indefinitely just because of not feeling comfortable making amendments or some of the environment around it is enough to table the legislation indefinitely. I think this legislation as a whole could do a lot for the student body, and by pushing it back, there's no guarantee next session that we hear it again or it's brought up. So with that, I am speaking in negation of this motion as a whole. But are there any other senators that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Senator Hatch.
I just think it's really important to remember why we pass legislation here. I am speaking in negation of tabling this indefinitely, specifically because we are here to pass legislation that will improve the student experience. I think that this legislation as it stands can do that, and it is made to do that both for the university PD and for the students that would be using this. So failing legislation when it's based off of a few amendments that would not significantly, substantially change a bill kind of flies in the face of that, right? Like if we were to, for instance, fail this because we didn't think, to vote against this because we didn't think that there were enough majors being on there, is that actually a line in the sand that you're willing to draw where this bill is not doing enough good because of a very specific sticking point? I think that we can pass this, and if people want to edit it or change it, that is fully within their purview to do. You can add amendments right now, or you can make changes to this in the next session. And at the end of the day, I don't think that any of the changes that we're going to make are going to substantially change this enough that it should be impacting your vote, at least from the discussions that I have heard on this.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, obviously I'm going to be speaking in negation, and in regards to the reasonings for why, making the comment that it is not perceived that we are allowed to make amendments or that they are not open to amendments is pretty harsh to say, especially since it was clearly asked multiple times in multiple different forms that people email, text, talk in person of their ideas and amendments that they want to see done. And while if we might not see those specifically on there, it's been pointed out that those were not addressed in person of what they actually want to see. I know some people did talk in person about what they believe should change and what should be adjusted. And for me, example, I talked to him in person. I said, I think that this is great, and you told us why you have it as they are. And then when no one reached out, it is under the assumption of the person who's writing the piece of legislation that they're not wanting to change. And also, if you want an amendment, make the amendment right now. If you believe that you want to change the type of majors that a person, because that was brought up, because that is the main point that was brought up multiple times, at least I believe it was like 4 or 5 times it was brought up in the first read, then you should make those amendments. They don't have the say in this right now of if we vote on it or not. That is not why we should also table this, stating that because people can't change legislation. That's why we're here in committee or in Senate. That is the point of Senate. Well, that's the point of committee too. That is the point of every single process for the past 2-3 weeks. For the past, I don't know how many weeks he's been working on this, and the copious amount of individuals who've been part of this, they've been working this, and a lot of us have known because he's talked about it in the SJ office for weeks, months, if that. So we've known that this has been happening. Stating that we cannot make changes is not true. You can do that right here, right now. If you believe that we have to completely change the entirety of the bill, well, one, you should have done that and sent those emails. And we were told how many people had emailed. This is not fair in any way, shape, or form to try and table this indefinitely. And also, if you table indefinitely, you have to change everything. We would have to change a lot of information that is present here. So I'm going to be speaking no, and I urge you guys to.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Sarah Sahid.
Well, I understand a lot of the discussion specifically around this motion. I think the intention of tabling was for the fact that a lot of the handling of this bill has created a culture that primarily has not been open to criticism. And I think the purpose of tabling it was behind the intention that if we pass this bill today, it would not reflect the student body and it would not reflect the wishes of a lot of senators. I think a lot of work was put into it, and I think that's commendable, and I think it's a good bill, and I think Jamie put a lot of work into it. But I think that we're kind of misconstruing the argument that was presented behind this motion. And I think that Senator Miller brought up a lot of good arguments about specifically the handling and discussion around the bill. I just think that the purpose of Senate is that we work together and that we're open to criticism and that we're open to feedback. And a lot of the feedback that was presented was shut down, and it was told that it wasn't allowed to be amended or that they weren't open to amending it. So I think the broader intention of this, and this is just in defense of Senator Miller's argument, is just that it doesn't truly reflect the wishes of the student body. And I just hope that, I think that the purpose of this was to bring up the discussion about how we handle legislation, and that maybe a hostile handling of it wasn't the right situation, but I understand everybody's argument. I just think that we're misconstruing the original argument that Senator Miller put out.
I will take one more affirmation and one more indication. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in affirmation? I'll go to affirmation of the motion. Are there, Senator Timms?
Kind of echoing some of the sentiments already been said, I don't think this motion was made maliciously. I think it was meant to be constructive. Personally, I think that a UPD advisory board would be beneficial on campus. I've never said otherwise. I just think that given some of the discussions we've had in committee, some of the discussions I've had with the sponsor of this legislation and with other senators, that it could use a little more time and a little more editing. And I get that it would do a lot of good right now, but I think that when we pass legislation, we should be very intentional and it should be very refined. And I don't think it's quite there yet. And so I think it could use a little more time. And I think tabling it and picking it up next session would be a wonderful way to do so.
I'll take one more indication. I'll go to Senator Winslow.
Okay. I'm going to basically go line by line about the points of why the motion was made. So it was, one of the previous sentiments was that the author did not take certain amendments into consideration or they immediately shut them down. That is inherently false. I never once immediately shut something down, or the author immediately shut something down, rather than, like, the author always explored anything that was brought to them. Did they reject certain ideas after exploring? Yes. Just because something was rejected does not mean it was not thought out. Does not mean it was never considered. Now, I'm also going to bring up the point that that was also made of amending the bill in the amendments that were made and how they didn't reflect what was actually being brought up. The author would take part of suggestions made and would sort of filter out, so to speak, what they thought was good and what they thought wasn't in the right place for this legislation. It's not that it was to be perceived as different, it's just kind of taking things that were good that they wanted in the bill and kind of putting out things that they thought weren't right and weren't a good fit for the bill. Also, if you don't like the legislation, vote no on it. That's why we are voting. We are not here to table this legislation because then it doesn't happen this legislative session. Why, if you're in favor of it, then why are you wanting to table it? Because I hear all of these arguments about why we're wanting to table indefinitely, but they just sound like they want to vote against it, and some of them even sound like they want to vote for it. So I don't understand why we're wanting to table indefinitely when we could just vote no if you don't like it.
Okay, I'm ending the debate at this time. We will now move into the voting period.
Point of information.
Go ahead.
If we were to vote no on this piece of legislation, it would in fact be true that it would not be able to be introduced in a further session. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would have to change substantially. But also to be clear, before we vote, we're voting on the motion to table indefinitely. So just to clarify that before we go, and Advisor Fonseca, if you have something to add.
If the bill failed, the only time the language applies of having to change it is if it's in the same session. When a new session starts in 2 weeks, that rule does not apply for new sessions. So you can't introduce it in 68 as is, but 69 can do whatever they want because it's a brand new session.
Okay, with that, we'll now move into the voting period for tabling, and this requires a 2/3 majority vote.
Vote is now open. With 5 yeses, 16 noes, and 5 abstains, this motion fails.
We will now go back into the debate period on the whole legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Parker.
Hello. Okay, so in the effort of making this bill as polished as possible, I do have an amendment to propose. I propose that on line 15, we cross out from through conversations to the end of that whereas, and I motion that it now reads, the purpose of this off-campus activity is to keep the surrounding community safe, comma, including students who reside across the street from campus and in the surrounding apartments, comma, and comma.
Clerk Thompson, Advisor Fonseca, did either of you get that?
Could you email it? And to be clear, you're talking what's currently in blue, starting the whereas starting on line 13. All right, yeah, if you will send your amendment over, that would be great.
Advisor Fonseca, have you?
It's on there now.
Okay, so Advisor Fonseca, can you just read the section out in its entirety?
Yes, it will now say, whereas 20% of WSU PD activity is classified as off-campus according to Chief Schroeder, while to some students this may be seen as a lack of attention to the primary population that is served by WSU PD. The purpose of this off-campus activity is to keep the surrounding community safe, including students who reside across the street from campus and in surrounding apartments, and.
With that amendment, is there a second to the amendment? Seeing a second from Senator Winslow, we'll now move into the debate period. When you wish to speak on your motion.
I just wanted to propose this. When reading this amendment, initially was a little confused on the wording, and I just wanted to really add clarity as to what the purpose of this off-campus activity was for students.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak on this item? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, I'll speak in affirmation. I do agree. I can understand why you're reading it a little bit. It might just look wrong for me, and then I do think that this just clarifies it a little bit more. It makes it more streamlined.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in the debate, specifically to speak in negation of this motion? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing the debate. We'll move into the voting period.
Voting is now open. With 26 yeses, 0 noes, and 0 abstains, this amendment passes.
We will now move back into the debate period on this legislation as a whole. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Boyd.
I motion to strike line 31 and replace it with the School of Criminal Justice and Political Science.
To clarify, where would you like to strike? Like, are you saying line
31.
of? I'm a little bit.
Line 31 does not refer to that.
It says students majoring in criminal justice and political science, and.
Are you talking about line 63?
On mine, it says 31. The whereas.
So to clarify, are you, for line, repeat your motion one more time for us.
Motion to strike, wait, is it strike or is it replace?
You could either strike or strike language and add new language.
Yeah, so strike line 31 says whereas 31, having students serve on the board will give valuable experience to students majoring in criminal justice and political science.
Advisor Fonseca, do you get that?
Will you pull the bill on the screen? Because on line 30, it says, having students serve on the board will give valuable experience to students majoring in criminal justice and political science. It already says that. What do you want it to say now?
The School of Criminal Justice and Political Science.
Political justice is not a school. It's the department.
No, I said the School of Criminal Justice and keep
political science. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Can you read off the amended wording?
So it will now read, whereas having students serve on the board will give valuable experience to students majoring in the School of Criminal Justice and Political Science, comma, and.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing no second, this motion fails. We'll now go back into the debate period. For the legislation as a whole, are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Phillips.
Oh, okay. Just making sure. I just want to speak in affirmation of this. I feel like something that hasn't been addressed yet is the fact that one of the co-sponsors is the Wichita State University police chief. And if there's anyone who knows how to handle this sort of thing, it would be the police chief. I don't think making any additional amendments or motions of that sort that would substantially change the bill would necessarily A, be worth it, and B, I don't think we as a Senate know as much about the functioning of this system as obviously the police chief. So I just want to address that.
Are there any additional individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, I appreciate a lot of the debate that's going on and a few of the amendments that we've made. Another comment I just wanted to make. This was recommended to pass with amended in committee by unanimous, 6-0-0. And with that, we should take into account that, again, multiple groups have looked this over and ensured that this is what we want. And while even if we don't believe that it's fully done, if we table this, it's going to take a lot longer for us to change it. We can make amendments really with great ease in the future if that is truly what has to happen. And with talks, it's believed that this has to change. But also the chief had talked about that, and I can be correct if wrong, and they've been wanting one for years. So it is also understood that the chief has been thinking about this for a very long time. And it's been talked about that the chief has been figuring out how we can get this for a very long time. And also with the talks that the writer has reached out to other schools and other institutions, that is not something that I can say a lot of bills have done in at least my 4 years being here. And that's not to say the other bills are not as good, but that's just showing the amount of commitment that we've made to the creation of this bill. And I hope that we pass this tonight.
Are there any other individuals that wish to make any amendments, speak in negation? Okay, seeing no more, I'm closing the debate. We'll now move into the voting period. And as a reminder, this is on the whole legislation and requires a simple majority vote.
Now open. With 21 yeses, 1 no, and 4 abstains, this bill passes.
We'll now move into 10.2. The clerk may read.
Akon requests to approve AR-68-016, an act to address barriers to undergraduate research.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Well, guys, aren't you glad to be hearing more from me? I'll try to make this brief, as I know we're working through quite a bit of legislation this evening. So I worked with Anastasia Marston, previous Senator Marston, in collaboration with the Undergraduate Research and Creative Activity Hub to collect some data on the biggest barriers to undergraduate research on campus. And we found quite a bit of information regarding the types of incentives that students were interested in seeing for undergraduate research. We saw some of the barriers that they were experiencing, such as lack of time, And we were also seeing some of the barriers that they were facing in regards to the type of information that they were receiving about undergraduate research. So the goal of this bill is to present this information to the faculty so that they can make an informed decision on how best to address those barriers to undergraduate research. And I will now stand for questions.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions from the author? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period on this item. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Interim Chairperson Beam.
I motion to pass this by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, it is adopted as such. We will now move into 10.3. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-160, an act to establish a need-based higher education scholarship for rural students in District 1 of Kansas.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Before we get started, I should probably clarify. We do have, I believe, 2 or 3 versions of it on the teams right now. That's my fault. I'm not very tech savvy at my ripe old age of 25. So the one I want y'all to look at is SB 160, Speakers Proposed. That's the one I collaborated with Matthew on, and the one that I think is most up to date. So a lot of the language has mostly just been shifted from one region to another. For example, what was once in the now therefore section is now in the whereas. There are a couple more details I'll iron out through motions. I spoke with President Wong and Advisor Fonseca, and they agreed to a $10,000 fund from SGA Special Projects. So that is a motion I'll be proposing in the not too distant future. The other one that I had been on the fence about including, but one that I think will ultimately be best, is a required essay describing the residents past in District 1, what they plan on doing as a graduate student, and how they plan on serving their community. I think that will really help with the qualification process, filtering out who truly needs it, who's going to serve the communities they represent once they complete their master's program. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions from the author? We'll go to Senator Mallard.
Yeah, I know we discussed this in person, and it does state, 56, 57, 58, can provide proof of residence in District 1 by mailing address. I think my question that I brought up to you, and I'd like a little bit more clarification, is what happens when, as a master's, you might not be actively living there. So do you just have to prove that you lived there or were from there, and then obviously maybe you moved from District 1 to WSU and then or KU or another institution, and then you're doing your master's here? Is it just to clarify, it is just if you lived there or you currently live there, or do we need to add a little bit more language for that?
The tentative language I wanted to add, but I wasn't confident about just yet, was proof that you've resided there for at least 5 years. That would be something that I would be appreciative if we can get support on a motion for. And it's something I probably should have included in the language, and I just neglected to do so. So that's my bad.
Are there any other questions from the author? I'll go to Senator Timms.
Yeah, so, excuse me. Congressional voting districts, especially for the House of Representatives, are very subject to change and partisan gerrymandering, and so they often change shape frequently and somewhat drastically. And so my question is, why did you choose to use a congressional voting district instead of just saying rural students?
One of the big reasons why is because out of the 105 counties in Kansas, 95 of them are considered rural. I think for a scholarship of this nature, where we're only getting a handful of students, that's way too much space for competition, and I think filtering out the process. Something else I do want y'all to keep in mind is that congressional districts are supposed to change every time a census comes out, so the next one will be 2030. Obviously, as we've seen in recent history around this country, that may not necessarily be the case, but I think it would be safe to assume that until this district gets changed or moved something else, whether it be expanded or shrunk. I think we should leave it as is. And once that, or should that happen, whether it be in 2030 or whether it be at a more recent time, we'll kind of evaluate if it's appropriate for then.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Chairperson Tawana.
Going back to Senator Merritt's question regarding the residency status, I think we discussed before, like if adding high school graduation from that district can be a good motion if you're open to that, because that can prove that residency that that student graduated from a high school in District 1.
Yes, I'm in agreement. I know we talked about that during government oversight, but yes, I think we should include that.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Sarah Sahib.
I know this was a question that was asked last time and wasn't answered. I just wanted to know if you had the statistic of how many people reside within this specific population, of how many graduate students from District 1 there are, just like if it was something that you had found or not.
So yes, 2 weeks ago when we were discussing it, I believe we were looking specifically for rural students who went to Wichita State. And me and Chairperson Tawana have looked into that a little bit further, and so far those statistics do not yet exist. What we do have right now is the one I cited last time, which was the KU study, Educational Attainment in Kansas by County, which covers how many residents in each of the 105 counties have attained a graduate or professional degree.
Are there any additional questions? I'll go to Senator Winslow.
I apologize if this has already been asked before, but I was thinking of this question while others were asking theirs. But as Senator Timms mentioned, with the current ongoing redistricting among many states, are you worried that any redistricting that could happen in Kansas would change your intentionality of being this area at all, or are you just kind of like...
I would say that that question has been pretty much answered. So.
I can give another.
I mean, if you want to add to it, you can.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of the states that are being redistricted are politically, I guess, powerful states, you know, like California and Texas and Michigan and places like that. With Kansas, we're not really that politically competitive. Like most of the time we know which way we're going to swing during the presidential elections. So I just don't see us being a hotbed for redistricting in the immediate future, at least.
Are there any additional questions? Senator Hatch.
I just kind of wanted to get a little bit more detail from you on why you considered limiting to District 1. I know that you mentioned that there were however many rural counties, but District 1 houses something like 80% of those, so I didn't feel like there would be that much increased competition of just going to rural. So if you could like highlight why it's so important as to why we stick to just District 1 a little more.
So in these districts are divided up based on population density, which I think demonstrates how a rural District 1 truly is. And two, as I touched on this 2 weeks ago, I think that creates the incentive to make additional scholarships for rural residents, whether it be of Districts 2, 3, and 4. But the main reason why specifically District 1 is because we're able to get such a large swath of the state without, you know, kind of cherry picking what constitutes rural, as well as accommodating the same populations that we would if it were in Districts 2 or 3 or Districts 4, although I believe District 4 is the most populated because it does contain Wichita. So does that kind of offer up some clarification?
Are there any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period for this item, so I'm going to make a motion. So I move to amend this legislation with all the amendments that are uploaded to the teams, with the title for these amendments as Speaker's Funds Proposed Amendments under SB-68-160. And those amendments would include moving around the bylaw language under sections 2 through 6 to either the bylaws below it or to the whereases. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Phillips. So I'll speak on this motion. So this amendment was made to move down several in the language in the different sections down to the bylaws. As with the bylaw language, if we want future sessions to see it in the bylaws, it has to actually be part of the bylaw amendments that are listed in the same bill itself. With the changes that are added, I also struck out the line that for 9F, I struck out that line because that is also in our finance code. In addition, it clarified that it is the Kansas Congressional District 1 as well. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak on this motion? Seeing no other debate, we'll now move into the voting period on this specific amendment.
With 26 yeses, 0 noes, and 0 abstains, this motion passes.
Are there any additional individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallard.
A motion to amend Section C to state recipients of the scholarship must have completed a bachelor's degree program at an accredited institution and can provide current or past proof of residence or proof of a high school diploma residing in District 1 by mailing address.
Advisor Fonseca, do you have that?
Can you just read that one more time?
Can provide current or past proof of residence or proof of a high school diploma residing in District 1 by mailing address.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Chairperson Tawana, we'll now move into the debate period. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Yeah, so I'll address the first point, current or past. It was stated that we could do like a year or something like that, but I believe that as this is on a need-based statement, it's possible that there's someone who might have moved there from a different area and they still very much so need this. So putting like have lived there for 5 years could put, or 6 or 1 or whatever, could put a limit. So putting current or past shows that they may have resided there. Then also I put high school diploma to also state that there are some kids who might have been homeschooled. So this allows that if they need to provide other evidence, they are able to provide that as well as any, and that also allows them to see any other documentation. So,
are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Seeing Chairperson Bean.
Can I motion to pass this by unanimous consent?
Are there any objections to this? Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We will move back into the debate period on this legislation. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? Senator Phillips.
As stated earlier, I'd like to motion to include the amount specified by the Special Projects Fund in SGA for $10,000.
So to clarify, is that a motion you're making?
Yes, to add it to the legislation. Now, I'm not entirely certain which line it would fall under. So,
it can be a new act.
Okay, that makes everything a lot easier then. So yes, a new act.
So new act. So to clarify, the new act would say allocate $10,000 from the Special Projects Fund to fund this initiative.
Yes.
Advisor Fonseca, do you have that? President Wong, do you consent to $10,000 being pulled out of the Special Projects Fund?
Yes.
With her consent, is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Beatty, we'll now move into the debate period on this item. Would you like to speak on your motion?
I think $10,000, when speaking with Advisor Fonseca and President Wong, they said that was usually the amount scholarships are offered. I think it's a very appropriate amount. I think it's enough to help a select few students get by for at least a year. So I think that's just a perfect amount for the scholarship, and that's pretty much all I got.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? Senator Mallard.
Motion approved by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, it is adopted as such. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak on this legislation at this time? I'll go to Senator Hatch.
I'm going to preface this with this. I would vote for this legislation either way, in favor. I still would really like to see, like, most of the mentions of District 1 struck from this. I have a couple of reasons for that. There's very limited increase in competition in expanding out because most of the rural areas are already in District 1. So you're not adding to the pool of applicants that much. Similar sized scholarships for the other district would disproportionately favor rural students from those other areas, because if you have a $10,000 scholarship for, say, District 3, which is much less rural, there are now far fewer students that can apply for a larger sum of money proportionally, which would kind of inadvertently hurt District 1 students. And then the thing about the districts changing is I understand they only change every 10 years. However, many college students are over the age of 20, which means that they would have gone through 2 changes. I believe that there's already been 1 substantial change within our lifetimes, with District 1 reaching over and grabbing part of western Kansas. How do we determine whether those students were part of District 1? Was it at the time of when they went to school in that area, when they lived in that area? Is it current? Does that just change every time the districts get changed? There's just a couple of questions around the changing of those and like the timeline around living in those districts that I'm a little concerned about. Again, I would still vote for this because I think that this is a good thing in general, but I just think that for me, it would be stronger if it just included all rural areas of Kansas as defined by something within our government that controls that.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll yield my time to undergraduate Advocate Island.
Good evening, everyone. I know that our graduate advocate is not in attendance this evening, but I wanted to bring some attention to some of the language in the bill that's presented on the floor right now. I wanted to echo a couple of Senator Hatch's sentiments about really being careful about some of the language, specifically as it pertains to the districts. I know specifically when it comes to scholarship allocations, there's language that bears distribution based off of national and regional origin, things of that nature. In addition to that, when we're talking about, fund allocations for students, when we're talking about promoting financial freedom for some of our graduate students, I think really being careful of not really limiting opportunities for those students, especially as, the whereas sections are really careful in outlining the necessity of having additional scholarship opportunities for our graduate students. But I think some of the rationale in the whereas section doesn't necessarily lead to the conclusion that District 1 students should be the only ones that have access to these resources. And so I would certainly implore some senators to make any sort of amendments that would prioritize a larger amount of graduate students from rural areas that have access to this scholarship. The secondary thing that I wanted to bring some attention to further in the legislation when we talk specifically about financial allocations, I'd like to see a little bit more specificity when it comes to minimum or maximum allocations for students so that we can have a better understanding of specifically how many students the scholarship would be able to serve and some other things of that nature. And I'll stand for any questions if you all have some.
We're in the debate period, so
perfect.
there's no further questions.
That is all.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? I'll go to Senator Mallory.
Yeah, I do want to echo and agree with the statements that we should be careful, because I have talked with the writer about this, making sure that we do reach out to all rurals. And one of the comments that I was told was an idea for this was because if you do look at a map of colleges, there are lesser colleges in that area, but I don't want to say that that is one of the reasons. I do agree that it would be nice if we can ensure that all rural areas do specifically state, that, but also ensuring that we're not discriminating in a sense from certain individuals. And then also, with the amendment that we made, I hope if we do keep it as District 1, it's stating current or past residency in District 1 would ensure that if the districts did change, if that is a concern, then that student can go back and say, hey, I used to live in this district at this time, and then we can bring it forward. But also that I would be under the assumption that that would be at the discretion of the or of whoever is handing this out. So obviously, if that is something that we want to change to, I think that is a great idea. But overall, I do agree that this is still good. It reaches out to students who do need a scholarship, but also if there's any ability to get more students that genuinely need it, that's great. And in the future, if we need to change it because we get more data, that is also possible. But I do like a lot of the conversations that we're currently having.
Are there any individuals that wish to make any further amendments to this legislation? Senator Timms.
I'm so sorry, get ready. I move to amend everywhere in this bill where it says District 1 to say rural. So that is in the title, line 5, line 19, line 50. Do I need to slow down?
And maybe I have a recommendation.
Okay.
I think just make the motion to begin with, and when we are processing this bill, I will go in and delete the rest of them if it passes, so that
Okay.
you don't have to read all of them.
We will do that.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Hatch, we'll now move to the debate period. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Yeah, so I think I agree, and many senators here agree with the sentiment of supporting rural grad students. Being from a rural area does impact the ability to get scholarships and receive funding, and graduate students especially are very underserved when it comes to financial assistance, and I think it's really, really important that we support them. But I don't think that relying upon a politically based and often altered system just because it's simpler. I think rural students exist beyond just the scope of District 1, and they should be considered too, because any Kansas student who's rural faces the same challenges as a student from rural District 1. And so just broadening it to rural Kansas, I think, does more of what we want to see.
I'll have one more in affirmation, one more negation. Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in affirmation? I'll go to Senator Phillips.
I just want to say that in light of the comments everyone's made, I move also to strike the language regarding District 1. When I made this bill, I was looking for the way to, I guess, qualify rural in the simplest terms. And there's a lot of different definitions of rural. As I said earlier, 95 out of 105 counties in Kansas are rural. So I thought District 1 would be the simplest way to divide them up. But I now see that it would be in our best interest to just allow every section of rural Kansas the opportunity to apply to the scholarship, even if it does make the odds of accepting it smaller. So as the writer of the bill, I support striking this language.
Are there any individuals that wish to speak in negation of this motion? I'll go to
Point of information.
State your point of information.
How do we, what are we qualifying as rural? Like, is there a database we're using, or how are we determining what is considered rural Kansas? Because there are some, in-between places I know of.
Advisor Fonseca, how will you interpret the language of rural students?
Thank you, Speaker Fund, for the honor of answering that question. I would imagine that we would be using definitions that the university or the state of Kansas has as they identify rural students. So similar to how we apply other language for scholarships, the Scholarship Commission will be provided that information, and students will, as students apply, part of our process of checking that they're eligible, we'll double check to make sure that they meet the language either that the university has or that the state of Kansas provides as they define rural in that area.
Are there any individuals that wish to speak in negation of the motion? I'll go to Chairperson Beam.
The way I understand this amendment, it changes the words District 1 to the word rural everywhere in the bill, and that doesn't make sense in a lot of cases. For instance, the title would become an act to establish a need-based higher education scholarship for rural students in rural of Kansas. So I think we can have a better wording in place for some of those instances.
Are you suggesting a substitute amendment?
Can I jump in? I think when we get ready to finalize the bill, we will ensure that it reads grammatically correct to still meet the need of the motion if it passes. Or did it pass? I don't remember. Okay, when it passes. Sorry, I don't remember where we are. But yes, I would not be concerned about that because we will make sure that it reads grammatically correct without ruining the intent of the bill.
Okay, with that, I'm closing the debate period. We'll now move to the voting period. As a reminder, this is simple majority.
Now open. With 24 yeses, 1 no, and 1 abstain, this motion passes.
We will now move back into the debate period for this legislation as a whole. Are there any additional amendments that individuals would like to make for this legislation? Senator Phillips.
I just want to make sure, because there's been a lot of discussion about the bill and I don't want to lose the plot. We've already decided the $10,000 amendment, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure we're all on track. Have we included the essay section yet?
I don't believe so.
Okay, motion to create a essay describing their life in District 1, what they plan on doing as a graduate student, and how they plan on serving their community. I just spoke really fast, I'm sorry, Gabrielle, but...
And
and also, ignore what I said about District 1. I was reading off what this said, and I hadn't updated it in about 30 minutes, so...
And can you clarify where you would like that language to be added to?
Oh, Lord. Let's see here.
For Advisor Fonseca, if you have guidance.
You want to require that they submit an essay part of their application?
Yes.
Then I would recommend you put it in section 9B, so line 54. And could you say again what you want so I can make sure it's correct?
Yes. Let me pull it up so it's appropriate and grammatically correct. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right tab. I have 50,000 open. Okay. So, participants will be required to write an essay describing their past in rural Kansas, what they plan on doing as a graduate student, and how they plan on serving their community.
Can you repeat one more time?
Yes. Sorry, let me pull up where we left off. Application should include an essay describing their past in rural Kansas, or PATH, whichever one works. What they plan on doing as a graduate student, such as their major, and how they plan on serving their community after graduation.
Do you have that, Advisor Fonseca? With that language, is there a second? Seeing a second from Senator Otten, we'll now move into the debate period on this item. Would you like to speak on your motion?
As I said up on the podium, I think it will really help clarify for students and people who are reading the scholarship why they need it. It'll give some background into their situation prior to enrolling in graduate school here at WSU. So I think ultimately, even though it may require more work, it will be a more pragmatic process.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Chairperson Beam.
I motion to pass this motion by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to that motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We'll move back into the debate period for the legislation as a whole. Are there any additional amendments to this legislation? Seeing none, we'll now move into the voting period on this legislation. As a reminder, it requires a simple majority vote for the legislation as a whole. Voting period is now open.
(26 yeses, 0 nos, and 0 abstains). This bill passes.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion. I move to extend the meeting to 10:30 p.m. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Mallard. We'll just move into the voting period for this legislation.
Voting is now open. With 24 yeses, 0 nos, and 2 abstains, this motion passes.
Okay, I'm going to make another motion. So I move to table the rest of pending business so that we can go to new business for the sake of our appointees and then go back to pending business. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Short, we will move into the voting period.
Once again, we need a 2/3 for this to pass. Voting is now open. 2/3 is 17. (26 yeses, 0 no, 0 abstains). This motion passes.
We will now move into section 11, new business, and move into 11.1. The clerk may read.
ACON requests to approve SB-68-171, an act to appoint Sarah Lamotte as Associate Justice.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening, Senators. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Sarah Lamotte as an Associate Justice candidate. Sarah is a first-year student majoring in political science who is currently a member of the Freshman Leadership Council. She is also involved on campus as a CTAC student programmer and Wichita State Life Development Assistant. Sarah has a history of exceptional professionalism, passion, and thoughtfulness. I will hand the floor off to her so that she can speak a little bit more about herself.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lamotte. Like Darwin just said, she kind of stole my beginning, but I just want to say thank you for being here and thank you for voting for letting me talk. As she said, I work at CTAC and also with the Wichita State Life Program. And through my experience with Freshman Leadership Council this year, I got to work with a lot of people in SGA and figure out a lot of the ins and outs of this organization. And through that work, I learned that I really would like to be an associate justice. I have a passion for law and policy. In fact, after this, I plan to go to law school. I consider myself a pretty observant person, and I love looking at little details. And after talking with the current Chief Justice Leslie, I've decided that this is the way that I want to serve the student body that has given me a home and a place at this institution. So, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author of the legislation or the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move into the debate period for this item, as this is an appointment bill. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Senator Mallard.
Motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. We will now move into 11.2. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-176, an act to appoint Kayleen Villa Spencer as Associate Justice.
You have the floor.
Hello, everyone, again. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all Kylene Villa Spencer as an Associate Justice candidate. Kylene is a second-year student majoring in criminal justice. She has been involved in the Anchorage Youth Court as a volunteer and the Black Student Union as the president. In these spaces, she has served as an advocate for students and worked on navigating and interpreting policy, positioning her well for the Associate Justice position. I will now hand off the floor to her so that she can speak a little bit more about herself.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you all this evening. My name is Kylene Villa Spencer, and she already pretty much said I'm currently a second-year criminal justice major, and I'm on my path to law school. I applied for the Associate Justice position because I strive for my student engagement as a student leader to be rooted in making sure students are represented and prioritized in spaces where decisions enhance their student experience. As a criminal justice major, I've developed a strong foundation in legal systems. My academic background taught me the importance of looking at situations from multiple perspectives and making decisions with integrity and based on logic. A major influence on my path has been my time volunteering with Anchorage Youth Court. This peer-run diversion program gave me the opportunity to serve in roles similar to attorney and a judge, working alongside other students to determine fair outcomes for first-time juvenile offenders. In those roles, I learned how to actively listen to the court, ask thoughtful questions, and weigh out circumstances carefully before reaching decisions. Despite the significant differences from this position, that experience challenged me to be fair, but also compassionate, and ultimately inspired me to apply for this position. In addition, my role as the current president of the Black Student Union has strengthened my ability to advocate for other students. As an Associate Justice, I would bring strong advocacy, diligence, collaboration, and a commitment to helping however I can. I'm prepared to approach this position with an open mind, respect for the order that guides us, and consideration for the student body. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author of the legislation or the nominee? Seeing no questions, thank you. We will now move into the debate period on this item. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Chairperson Peng.
Hi everyone, I will be speaking in affirmation of this nominee. In the short time that I've known her as the BSU president, I can say confidently that she will be one of the best candidates for this role. And with that, I motion to approve by using unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, it's adopted as such. With that, we'll now move back to pending business, and we'll now move into 10.4. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-168, an act to amend the SGA bylaws to restructure the Student Organization Council.
You have the floor.
Hi again, everyone. So for this bill, initially last week in committee, we reformatted, we pretty much struck out which we presented during first read and replaced it with a mechanism where government oversight would currently look after, like, reserve 2 meetings each semester at the minimum to look into the issues of RSOs which they're facing and provide legislative solutions to that. But with the discussion with Senate leadership regarding restructuring of the committee structures, I would like to replace this, strike out this complete language and have it put in the bill which we will be discussing after this bill moves regarding the new committee which we have set up, the Student Engagement and Experience Committee. So if anyone have any questions after this, I'll be making a motion to amend this language. So.
All right, we'll move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author of this legislation? Seeing none, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period on this item. Are there any senators that would like to make a motion? Chairperson Tawana.
I would like to make a motion to strike out the entire language written in color green.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Lee. We'll now move into the debate period on this motion. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like initially with this language proposal, it goes over to government oversight, but with the committee restructure, government oversight no longer has that authority over RSOs, so I don't see a point of having this language on there.
Are there any other individuals that would like to speak? Senator Mallard?
Motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, is adopted as such. We'll now go back to the debate period on the whole legislation. Is there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate? Chairperson Tawana.
I'd like to make a motion to replace line 11 to line 15, the two whereas sections, to the whereas section that I just emailed Dr. Fonseca. So if you can type it out. Because this whereas section suggests like we're moving to a different engagement. Yeah, that one, line 11 to 15. So yeah, it will pretty much explain what we're trying to do, because that whereas section was explaining what we were trying to do 1 week before that, so if that makes sense.
Advisor Fonseca, do you have that language? Can you read that, what it would read?
Starting on what will be line 16, whereas the Student Organization Council has not effectively fulfilled its intended purpose of fostering communication, collaboration, and engagement among recognized student organizations, and this bill seeks to eliminate the council and replace its functions through the restructuring of the Standing Senate Committees, whereby the Standing Senate Committee on Student Experiences and Engagement shall assume responsibility for outreach and engagement with recognized student organizations by holding a minimum of 2 committee meetings each semester, academic semester, dedicated to hearing concerns, gathering feedback, and developing appropriate legislative or policy solutions.
Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Chairperson Beam, we'll move into the debate period on this item. Would you like to speak on your motion?
Yeah, like the previous language doesn't make sense with the amendment I just proposed last time, so just editing the bill based on that.
I move to approve this motion by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, we'll now move back into the debate period on the legislation as a whole. Are there any additional individuals that would like to speak at this time? I'll move to approve this legislation as a whole by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, it's adopted as such. We will now move into 10.5. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-146, an act to establish an international student mentorship program at Wichita State University.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Just to give a brief summary of the bill, this bill, with its goal for this program, is to improve student success, retention, and sense of belonging by offering continuous community-based support tailored to the unique needs of international students. The program would pair new international students with upper division mentors who provide consistent support throughout their first year, including regular check-ins, guidance, and workshops focused on academic and cultural adjustment. Last week, my committee as a whole, we made an amendment for Section 3, subsection C, line 63. We added, with this program, there shall be a collaboration between the Wichita State University Student Government Association and the International Student Union, in which students from the International Student Union can volunteer to mentor the mentees. With this, we made some changes to the funding structure, so the program is not solely funded by SGA, but instead operates as a collaboration between SGA and the International Student Union. For Section 4, subsection C, line 75, let's see. We removed those lines to stay consistent, which say, within the Student Government Association, oversight shall be coordinated through the Director of International Student Affairs and the Director of Transfer Student Experiences. For this section, we wanted to stay consistent with the authority of the SGA president. Since the president has the discretion to eliminate those positions, this change ensures that if that ever happens, the president would take over oversight of the program to keep it running. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author? See no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move into the debate period for this legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Senator Phillips.
Are we able to pass by unanimous consent?
We are.
Motion to approve this bill by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, it is adopted as such. We'll now move into 10.6. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-159, an act to create student organization tier check process.
Is the author here ready to speak? You have the floor.
Good evening. So to refresh your memories and just give a few updates on the legislation since its first read, there has been added a section under the semester report to allow student organizations that are completing the requirements for Tier 3 organizations to upload any of the documentation required to become a Tier 3 organization to that report. So if they attend any conferences or competitions, any of those receipts, bills that they hold. So then those organizations can prove that they are a Tier 3 student organization. To clarify, this is because student organizations could be using funds from other accounts that they have, not necessarily from SGA appropriations. If it was going through appropriations, yes, we have those receipts, but for organizations that are still going to conferences but maybe using other grants or other modes of that funds, we don't know that those are happening. So this would still allow them to identify as Tier 3, still meet those requirements. A few slight changes. So one is changing the annual report name to better reflect the how often the report is submitted. So we changed it to a semester report rather than it being called, excuse me, an annual report. And then last time I spoke about some additional conversations being held after its first read. Those additional conversations did happen with Dr. Fonseca, President Wong, and I, where we discussed the accountability section, so in section 11. The changes that you guys see are solely so we can allow our student organizations that have offenses to be able to have one-on-one conversations with the treasurer rather than those conversations appearing on public record for anyone to see. This allows private and personal matters within those student organizations to stay within those student organizations and with the treasurer rather than those private matters becoming public to everyone. So I will stand for questions.
Thank you. We'll now move into the question period. Are there any questions for the author? Seeing no questions, thank you. We'll now move into the debate period for this legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? I'll go to Chairperson Tawana.
I think this bill, the idea for this bill was brought up during our one-on-one in the summer last year, and we have reviewed this in committee multiple times. And I think all the conversation with Treasurer Bum and President Wong and Advisor Fonseca has refined this edit to it. So I motion to approve this by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, it's adopted as such. And before we move into 10.7, you may be wondering why I'm not handing over the chair to anyone for this legislation. It is because Vice President Nguyen is gone, and all the rest of Senate leadership are direct sponsors of it, so I will also be chairing this legislation at the same time. But with that, we'll now move into 10.7. The clerk may read.
Act on request to approve SB-68-166, an act to amend the bylaws for the clerk of the Senate.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're enjoying our Senate meeting so far. With this legislation for a second read, for the committee, we didn't really make any changes to it, so I am more than happy to answer any questions if you all have any. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into the debate period. So we will now enter the debate period. So I will make a motion. So I move to add new language in chapter 5, section 1, subsection B, and after the line, the clerk of the Senate must give the Speaker of the Senate 2 weeks' notice. I move to add the language, in the case that the clerk of the Senate does not give the Speaker of the Senate 2 weeks' notice, the clerk of the Senate shall not be paid for the unworked hours. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Otten, we'll move into the debate period for this item. So the reason that I'm motioning to add this language is in the case that the clerk decides to resign and chooses and doesn't give the 2 weeks notice. I could envision a scenario where they could try to claim hours for hours they did not work. So this just adds that protecting language. Now, hopefully, it doesn't ever have to come to that case, but that is the reason why I'm making this amendment. Advisor Fonseca, do you have something?
Yes, could you say the second part? You went fast, so I didn't get the second part, but can you say that one more time a little slower?
I teamed it to you.
Say it again?
I teamed it to you.
Oh, even better, thank you.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in debate at this time? Chairperson Beam.
I wholeheartedly agree with this, so I motion to approve by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. Before we move into section 12, closing roll call, I move to add SB-68.
Point of order. We did not approve the bill.
That's right. That is your point of order is sustained. We will now move into the debate period for the whole legislation. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Senator Austin.
As much as I would love it for our clerk to never leave us, I do think it's important to have this information in our bylaws, and so with that, I would love to approve with unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing no objections, is adopted as such. Now, before we move into section 12, closing roll call, I move to add, let me pull it up, SB-68-170, an act to amend the bylaws for standing Senate committees of the Student Senate for its first and final read on our agenda. Is there a second for this motion? Seeing a second from Senator Winslow, we will now move into the voting period for this item.
Sorry, just to clarify for voting, we're voting on 2/3 to be added to the agenda first. With 26 yeses, 0 no, 0 abstains, this motion passes.
We will now move into this legislation. The clerk may read the title.
SB-68-170, an act to amend the bylaws for the standing Senate committees of the Student Senate. Is the speaker here and ready to speak?
I am indeed.
You have the
So
floor.
for this legislation, it would amend the standing committees of the Student Senate. As we talked about it within our committee of the whole meeting today, this legislation will result in 5 standing Senate committees. So the chair of Senate Affairs and Operations, Government Oversight, Academic Services, which is renamed from Academic Affairs, and then Student Support Services and Student Experiences Engagement. Additionally, it would shift over the name from Legislative Affairs or Senate Leadership Meetings over to the Senate Executive Committee as well. I'm open to any questions that any senators may have since our committee of the whole meeting. And we'll now move into the question period. Are there any individuals that have questions at this time? Seeing no questions, we'll move into the debate period. We will now move into the debate period for this item. Are there any individuals that wish to speak at this time? Senator Winslow.
I'm going to speak in affirmation. I think it was really well thought out, really well written. I did get a chance to look over it and talk with you and Chairperson Hansen about this. And I brought up some concerns then, but since reading it and thinking about it, those concerns kind of went away. I agree wholeheartedly with adding the other committee, basically splitting kind of student services into those 2 groups, because as of right now, student services does have a lot going on. And as a member of that committee, I think that is a really good decision on that part.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak in the debate at this time? Chairperson Hansen.
Yeah, so I would just like to say that this bill was very well thought out and a lot of time was put into it. And as the Student Services Chairperson, I can confidently say that splitting the Student Services Committee into 2 separate entities is the correct choice. It is very hard to focus on give every single area of jurisdiction that we have the attention that it needs and deserves when we have so much to go over, and every single year it feels that we lack in a certain area because of that. And so I feel like doing this would kind of negate that. So I will be speaking affirmation and voting as well.
Are there any other individuals that wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, will now Senator Lee.
Is it viable to pass this by unanimous consent?
It is allowed, yes. Are you making a motion?
Yes, I'm gonna make a motion to try and pass this by unanimous consent.
Are there any objections to this motion? Seeing none, is adopted as such. With that, we'll now move to section 12, closing roll call.
Roll call's now ready.
Okay, before we move into section 13 adjournment, if anyone has any questions afterwards, I will be removing everything from my office afterwards if you wish to talk to me then. Additionally, if Advisor Fonseca, you have any final words?
Yeah, just a reminder, next week, Senate is at 5:30. 5:30. Your calendar should have been updated already, so please make sure you catch that. We'll see you next week at 5:30.
You read my mind about what else to say next. So with that, we'll move into section 13, adjournment. The Student Government Association Student Senate will stay adjournment until Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. I adjourn this meeting at 9:32 p.m.